maybe one of those people sceptical of government initiatives when it comes to stimulating the jobs market, and certainly JobBridge, the national internship scheme, I should say, was very much maligned. JobPath is something a little bit different. It was introduced about 2.5 years ago, and the idea was that if you were long-term unemployed, you would be assigned a mentor and an advisor, and you would receive guidance for up to 12 months after securing a job, and it was effectively just a stimulation measure to try and get more people into full employment and off the live register. Full employment would count as at least 30 hours a week. So according to the scheme itself, just under a fifth of people who took part during the first year of operation gained employment. 18%. Now, for reaction and for analysis, Angela Maher is from Mullingar. She's with Career Coaching Matters. And Angela, good morning.
Good morning, Will. How are you?
Very well, thank you. I was about to point out there are two private contractors operating this. Turris Nua, which tends to be in this part of the country and the south of the country and is associated with FRS recruitment. Then there's an English firm, CTech, which oversees the scheme in Dublin and in the northern regions. I'm not quite sure which of those would cover Mullingar.
CTech.
Okay. What's your experience with them?
I suppose the first thing I'd say to you is, are you surprised about the 18%? Because I'm not.
Why?
It's another government scheme, and it's all about, when you look at the national live register figures, once somebody is on a CE scheme, on JobBridge, on JobPath, now they're employed and they're off. So one of the things I've always been cynical about, and I'm famous for quoting on this, is that there are a huge amount of people on government schemes that are not now on the live register. So that does massage the figures, and that does concern me. So JobPath, anyway, was another one where they brought in two companies, as you say. What happened was UK companies collaborated with Irish companies to win the contracts, because this is a scheme that's run in the UK and has been for many years. What's different about it is, in the UK, there were an awful lot more jobs available in the UK for unemployed people. We didn't have that level of available jobs. I mean, we didn't have that level of available jobs for people not coming off the live register, for people in employment even moving, because it came in at a time during a recession, even the end of a recession. Secondly,
it started in July 2015.
Yeah.
And you would imagine, based on the declining number on the live register from July 2015 to July 2016, that in the first year of operation there should have been some opportunity. And these firms are incentivised based on the number of people they get into full-time employment.
That's right. Yeah, no, they are. You're right. But remember something, at 2015, even 2016, this is 2018, and people counties outside Dublin and apart from the big cities are really only starting to employ in the last 6 months, 12 months, and probably more the last 6 months. At the time it came in, the type of jobs, because we're not talking about high-tech jobs, we're not talking about the ones for the pharma and the IT industries that were the big issue. The type of jobs that were required for a huge amount of people coming off the register, they were not available, which would have been service, hospitality, retail. They were not available. Construction was not available. So there was a huge amount of people on long-term unemployment being referred to CTech and Turris Nua. What was happening was these companies were knocking on the doors of employers and saying, please take some. Because obviously when you were signed on to social welfare, sent you over to work with one of these companies, they got an initial payment. They got another payment once they got you in the door of an employer. And then if you stayed 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, they got another payment. So it was within their interests to work with employers and say, for God's sake, please keep them for the 12 months if you can at all, because that's how we get paid.
But equally, wasn't there an incentive too for employers, and I'm trying to remember the name of the scheme, there are just so many of them, where
I know.
if a company took on a person who was long-term unemployed,
that's right.
For the first year I think they got a certain figure, and for the second year I believe it was up to €10,000 over the 2 years would be the return for the companies.
That was definitely the JobBridge one.
JobBridge was the internship. I think this is something else.
But employers got paid some money to take on JobBridge as well. It was up to $7,000 a year or over 2 years as well. But you are right, employers got some incentive. But then once that incentive ran out.
Sorry, Jobs Plus. Jobs Plus is the name of the scheme that gives employers up to €10,000 over 2 years.
That's right. And like you, I've got confused with them. But you're right about the incentives, Will. But once the incentives runs out, and if the employer doesn't genuinely have a huge amount of work for that person, then those jobs didn't always last. The second thing was, even to employers in good faith who had jobs, sometimes employees who really had no skill in the area, it was a bad fit. It was putting the jigsaws in the wrong places. And one of the reasons for that, and this is what amazed me at the time, because when a lot of these companies were recruiting for the employment advisors, I was looking at the criteria. Minimum standard leaving cert, third level desirable but not essential. And while I can get over somebody not necessarily having a third level degree, you only had to have a minimum 1 year's experience in recruitment, sales, customer service. Now, if you're going to work with people who are long-term unemployed, who are coming off a live register, who've been unemployed for some time, you really need to have somebody with 5 good years' experience and qualification in either HR, recruitment, in guidance and counselling and coaching. Somebody who really can work with people to say, where is it we can fit you in right? Because there was a lot of square pegs going into round holes.
Right, so you were concerned that the people working with these job seekers mightn't be fit or able to guide them properly.
Yeah, very good people, but predominantly administrators.
Just to explain the relevance of that, and again going back to, I suppose, the official line about JobPath is that if you sign up, you will get help in tailoring your CV, in searching for the right jobs for you, in preparing for interviews, as well as building, and I quote, confidence and motivation. So obviously the skill set required to impart all of those qualities is quite specific, and you're concerned that perhaps some of the people in those companies weren't the best fit. Nonetheless, okay, here we are in 2018 with a reduced unemployment rate, with a more buoyant market than perhaps was the case 2.5 years ago when JobPath was introduced. Based on your conversations with clients, do you get the sense it's working better now?
No, I don't, because I have clients who told me that they would actually rather take the pay cut, the social welfare cut, than go into some of the jobs that they were being suggested to, because they were jobs they were really out of their depth, knew nothing about. I had clients who told me they were terrified to go into some of those agencies because they really felt they were being bullied to sign contracts. They were being told, you must do this, you have to do that, and they felt out of their depth. Now, I have clients who said it worked out fine for them. But I'll tell you what, it was clients who came with stronger backgrounds and experience and stronger qualifications. They seemed to do better. But the people who didn't do as well were people who would have had low skill, low education, low levels of education. And they were the ones that needed a little bit more hand-holding and a little bit more working out where they're going to fit in to what we're calling a changing world, where a huge amount of the lower skill jobs are disappearing, and they're the ones that I thought were under pressure more, and so, still are.
For instance, what sectors would be under most pressure because of mechanisation, technology, displacement?
Yeah, well, the thing, a lot of the people, like retail are the biggest ones, because the jobs aren't available, and I had a huge amount of clients who were looking for the work in the retail, and those jobs have part-time sometimes have been available, but really and truly retail has not, once you move down to rural Ireland, that has not come back. A lot of people going down to CTech, that was the background, that was the sort of job they were looking for, and that wasn't becoming available. One of the other things were there were some jobs coming available, say a job came available maybe in Castletowngeoghegan, or a job became available 10-15 miles in a little village outside Mullingar area, and you have no transport to get to it. These were part of the concerns. They didn't come across the transport issues as much in the UK, but in Ireland we did, because public transport to get people to jobs is actually a big area, in a big problem once you hit rural Ireland.
One other consideration jumps off the page of me. I'm looking at the profile of people who engaged with these two companies. So 141,000 job seekers in all. Over half of them had been unemployed for more than 3 years.
That's right.
So they were very, I suppose, rusty, and I don't mean that in a disparaging way, but
Absolutely.
They had been so long out of the jobs market, perhaps their confidence had been eroded,
yes,
perhaps their ability to impress at an interview was diminished, and you're always going to have these bright young things coming up behind them who perhaps will offer a cheaper alternative for an employer. So was the scheme at a disadvantage because of the profile there, because so many, in 2015, so many people were long-term unemployed?
Yes, well, the thing with that was that one of the policies appeared to be that long-term unemployed were going to JobPath, and that the younger, brighter ones, as you say, it's under a certain age and just out of college and graduates, they were staying with the DSP, but that they were giving the long-term unemployed to the JobPath scheme. So the JobPath was up against it from the start, because, as you know, at the time, they would have got a lot of people coming from the construction area who were out of work. But it also goes back to my original point, that if you have somebody who's long-term unemployed, yes, you're right, the confidence is low, the morale is low, and you really need somebody who is very well versed in coaching or guidance to work with somebody like that, because confidence is at an all-time low, and that self-belief. So you are talking about somebody with really specialist area to work with somebody who is coming from long-term unemployed. And the social welfare was very careful about what they did. JobPath would have got the longer-term unemployed people.
Well, the Minister for Employment Affairs and Social Protection, Regina Doherty, she has ordered an immediate review of the scheme, which is to be completed at some stage this year. We await the outcome with interest. Angela Maher from Career Coaching Matters in Mullingar, thank you for talking to us today.
Thanks indeed, Will.